Welcome to Cats for Sleep. Tonight, we're going to spend some time with a motion you may have seen many times before, often without thinking about it very much. A small, rhythmic movement, gentle pressure, paws pressing into something soft, then releasing again. Cats do this in moments that are already quiet, just before they rest, just after they settle, sometimes beside us, sometimes alone. There is nothing sudden about it, nothing dramatic. The motion arrives slowly, as if it has been waiting patiently for the moment when the world becomes calm enough to notice it. This movement is called kneading. You may have seen it happen on a blanket, a pillow, a folded piece of clothing, or the corner of a couch. You may have felt it, carefully and rhythmically, as a cat settled nearby. You may have noticed that it often comes with a relaxed posture, half-closed eyes, and sometimes a quiet purr. Tonight, we're not here to analyze it quickly. We're not here to fix it, stop it, or interpret it as a message that needs decoding. Instead, we're simply going to rest with it, because kneading is not a signal that demands attention. It's not a behavior that needs to be corrected or explained away in a sentence or two. It's something much older, much quieter, and much more settled than that. Over the course of this video, we'll gently explore where this motion comes from, why it never seems to disappear, and what it might feel like from the cat's point of view. We'll take our time. There's no rush to understand everything all at once. For now, all that matters is that this motion exists most often in moments of safety. Cats do not knead when they are alert. They do not knead when they are watching closely or preparing to move. They knead when their body has already decided that the moment is safe enough to soften. That's important, because it tells us that kneading isn't about effort. It isn't about doing something with a goal in mind. It's about allowing something familiar to happen once the need for attention fades. As you listen, you don't need to focus on every word. You don't need to remember details or follow along closely. This is not a test of understanding. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. If you fall asleep, that's even better. Before we continue, if you enjoy calm, long-form videos about cats, behavior, and gentle explanation designed specifically to help you relax and fall asleep, you're welcome to subscribe to Cats for Sleep. It helps the channel grow, and it allows us to keep creating slow, quiet spaces like this one. But there's no pressure. You can simply listen and rest. Now, as we begin, it may help to picture a cat settling into a familiar spot. The body lowers, the weight shifts, and then, almost without notice, the paws begin to move. Left, right, left, right. Not fast, not slow, just steady. There's no urgency in it, no expectation that it should lead anywhere. It isn't trying to accomplish something new. It's repeating something old, something that feels safe enough to return to. And as we continue, we'll gently trace that feeling back, far earlier than most people realize, without disturbing the calm that brought it here in the first place. For now, there's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember. Just allow the rhythm to exist in the background, the same way it does for the cat, quietly, naturally, without needing to understand anything complex. When we see a cat kneading, it's easy for the human mind to start looking for meaning right away. We're used to actions having reasons, intentions, outcomes. We're trained, almost automatically, to ask, what is this for? But kneading doesn't really fit into that kind of thinking. It isn't a request. It isn't a signal that something needs to change. And it isn't a task being completed. Kneading happens without a finish line. There is no moment where the cat pauses, looks around, and checks whether the kneading has worked. There's no visible sense of success or failure. The movement simply continues for as long as the body feels comfortable continuing it, and then it gently fades away. This can feel unusual to watch, especially for humans, because we often associate repetition with effort. When we repeat something, it's usually because we're trying to improve, fix, or reach something. But kneading isn't about improvement. It doesn't refine a skill. It doesn't move the cat closer to an outcome. It exists in a space where nothing needs to be accomplished. That's one of the reasons it tends to appear when the cat is already calm. Kneading doesn't create relaxation from tension. It emerges after relaxation has already begun. By the time kneading starts, the cat's body has already decided that vigilance is no longer necessary. Muscles have softened, breathing has slowed, attention has drifted away from the outside world. Only then does the movement begin. This is important because it tells us something subtle about the nature of the behavior. Kneading isn't a tool for changing the environment. It's not meant to alter what's around the cat. Instead, it's something the body allows once it no longer needs to manage the moment. There's no urgency in it, no expectation that it should be watched, no requirement that it should be responded to. If no one notices, it still happens. If the cat is alone, it still happens. If the environment remains exactly the same, it still happens. That's because kneading is not directed outward. It doesn't ask anything of the surface beneath the paws. It doesn't require feedback in the form of approval or reaction. The softness of the surface matters only because it feels familiar, not because it needs to be changed. In this way, kneading is closer to breathing than to behavior. It unfolds quietly, without conscious planning, and stops when the body no longer feels the need to continue. There's also no pressure for it to look a certain way. Some cats knead slowly, some knead with more force, some pause between movements, some keep a perfectly steady rhythm. None of these variations matter to the cat. There's no internal standard being measured. The movement doesn't become better over time. It doesn't become more efficient. It doesn't reach a perfected form. It simply is what it is in that moment. This lack of purpose is not a flaw. It's actually what allows kneading to remain gentle. When an action has no goal, it can remain soft. It doesn't need to speed up. It doesn't need to escalate. It doesn't need to prove anything. And because of that, kneading often feels strangely peaceful to observe. There's nothing dramatic about it. Nothing that pulls attention sharply. The rhythm doesn't demand focus. It allows the mind to drift alongside it. This is why many people notice kneading most clearly when they themselves are already slowing down. Late at night, during quiet moments, when the room is dim and still. In those moments, the absence of purpose becomes noticeable. Nothing is being asked of you as the observer either. You don't need to interpret the kneading as affection. You don't need to assign it emotional meaning. You don't need to decide whether it's a sign of happiness, attachment, or comfort. Those interpretations may come later, if they come at all, but they aren't required. For now, kneading can simply be a movement that exists without explanation. A reminder that not everything has to move forward. Not everything has to improve. Not everything has to reach a conclusion. Sometimes, emotion continues simply because the body feels safe enough to let it. And when that safety remains, the movement softens on its own. The paws press, they release. The rhythm continues. And eventually, without any clear signal, it fades. Not because it's finished, but because it no longer needs to be there. As we move forward, we'll begin tracing where this quiet, purposeless rhythm comes from. Not in a way that disrupts it, not in a way that pulls it apart, just gently enough to understand how something so simple can stay with a cat for an entire lifetime. For now, it's enough to know this. Kneading isn't asking anything of the world. It's something the body allows when the world has already become quiet enough to rest. If you watch a cat knead for long enough, you may notice something subtle. There is rarely a clear beginning. The paws don't suddenly start moving in response to a sound or a signal. There's no sharp transition from stillness to action. Instead, the rhythm seems to arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, as if it has been there all along and only now has space to appear. This is because kneading does not begin as a decision. The cat does not pause and choose to knead. There is no moment of evaluation, no weighing of options, no awareness that something is about to happen. The movement simply emerges. One paw presses, then the other, and before there is time to think about it, a rhythm has formed. This kind of movement belongs to the body, not the mind. In animals and in humans as well, there are patterns that exist beneath conscious thought. They are not planned. They are not directed. They surface when conditions are right and disappear when they are no longer needed. Kneading is one of these patterns. It doesn't require attention to function. In fact, it often appears when attention has already softened. Cats tend to knead when their awareness has narrowed to a comfortable, quiet field. The environment is familiar. Nothing unexpected is happening. There is no need to monitor the room. In that state, the body is free to return to rhythms that don't serve an immediate purpose. This is why kneading feels steady rather than sharp. The movement does not rush. It does not accelerate toward anything. The pace stays consistent, not because it is controlled, but because there is nothing pushing it to change. Left, right, left, right. The repetition is gentle enough that it doesn't demand focus, even from the cat itself. You might notice that a kneading cat often looks distant in a very specific way. The eyes may be partially closed, the face relaxed, the gaze unfixed. This is not distraction, it's absorption. The body is engaged in something familiar, while the mind drifts somewhere quieter. In this state, awareness doesn't disappear. It simply becomes less active. There's no scanning of the environment, no preparation to move, no tension waiting to respond. The rhythm holds the body in place, softly anchoring it without effort. This kind of automatic rhythm is common in states of deep comfort. You see it in breathing during sleep, in the slow sway of an animal at rest, in repetitive motions that occur without thought when safety is assured. Kneading fits into this category. It doesn't pull the cat forward into action. It doesn't prepare the body for movement. It does the opposite. It allows the body to stay exactly where it is. Because the rhythm arrives on its own, it also leaves on its own. There is rarely a clear ending. The pause may slow slightly. The pressure may lessen. The pauses between movements may grow longer. And then, at some point, the rhythm simply dissolves. There is no moment of stopping, no visible signal that it's complete. The cat doesn't look down to check. It doesn't adjust or correct. The movement fades the same way it arrived, quietly. This tells us something important. Kneading is not maintained by effort. It doesn't require energy in the way intentional movement does. It doesn't demand focus or reinforcement. As long as the body remains relaxed, the rhythm can continue. When relaxation deepens further, it no longer needs to. This is why kneading often transitions directly into sleep. The movement doesn't need to stop before rest begins. Rest simply deepens until the rhythm is no longer necessary. In that sense, kneading is not separate from rest. It's part of the descent. For an observer, this can feel soothing as well. Watching a rhythm that has no urgency, no goal, and no outcome gives the mind permission to mirror it, to let go of anticipation, to stop waiting for something to happen next. There's nothing to follow, nothing to track, nothing to solve. Just repetition that exists for as long as it feels right. And because the rhythm belongs to the body rather than the mind, it doesn't require understanding. You don't need to know why it's happening. You don't need to interpret it. It's enough to notice that it's there. As we continue, we'll begin to gently explore where this rhythm first formed, long before adult cats ever found soft blankets or quiet rooms. But for now, you can simply rest with the idea that kneading doesn't start because something is missing. It starts because everything has already become still enough to allow it. The rhythm arrives on its own, and when it's no longer needed, it leaves the same way, without effort, without attention, and without asking for anything in return. Long before a cat learns the shape of a room, the sound of a voice, or the difference between light and shadow, its world is made almost entirely of sensation. In the first days of a kitten's life, vision is limited and unfocused. Hearing is faint and undeveloped. The world does not arrive in clear images or distinct sounds. Instead, it arrives through touch, warmth, pressure, texture, gentle movement. A newborn kitten does not recognize objects or spaces. It does not yet understand distance or direction. Its nervous system is still forming the pathways that will one day support awareness and decision-making. What exists first is the body. From the moment a kitten is born, its movements are guided by reflex rather than intention. These reflexes are not learned. They are present at birth, ready to function without instruction. Among the earliest of these is the rhythmic movement of the front paws. In the very beginning, this movement has no name. It is not kneading yet. It is simply motion paired with comfort. A kitten presses its paws forward and back against soft, warm surfaces. The motion is small, uncoordinated at first, but it is consistent. This happens while the kitten is close to its mother, surrounded by warmth, scent, and stillness. There is no separation between safety and sensation. They exist together as one experience. At this stage, the kitten's brain is not forming memories in the way we usually imagine. There are no narratives, no events being stored for later recall. Instead, the nervous system is learning patterns. The body learns what it feels like to be supported. It learns the difference between tension and ease. It learns which sensations belong to safety. The rhythmic paw movement becomes part of this learning. Each gentle press happens alongside nourishment. Each release is followed by continued warmth and contact. Nothing interrupts the sequence. Because of this, the movement is never paired with stress or urgency. It does not happen while the kitten is alert or searching. It happens when the kitten is already held in a stable, protected environment. This matters more than the movement itself. The nervous system does not remember the specific surface. It remembers the state. Warmth, stillness, closeness, support. The movement of the paws becomes woven into this state so tightly that the two are no longer separate. In the early days, the kitten does not choose when to move its paws. The movement arises naturally, driven by circuits that exist before conscious control. The kitten does not think about its body. There is no awareness of self as something separate from sensation. The movement simply happens in the presence of comfort. As the days pass, the kitten's body repeats this pattern many times. Not because it is practicing, not because it is learning in a deliberate sense, but because the conditions remain the same. Softness beneath the paws, warmth surrounding the body, a lack of threat. The repetition is gentle and frequent. And with repetition, patterns settle deeply. These early movements do not disappear as the kitten grows. They do not fade once vision improves or hearing sharpens. They remain stored in the body as part of its earliest understanding of rest. Even as the brain develops more complex functions, these early motor patterns are preserved. They become quiet background knowledge, not something remembered, something carried. This is why kneading feels so different from learned behaviors. It doesn't have the sharp edges of training. It doesn't change quickly or adapt to feedback. It remains simple, even as the cat's world becomes more complex. Kneading begins here, in these first days, when the world was small and safe enough to be held entirely in the body. Before names, before awareness, before intention. As we continue, we'll look more closely at how this early movement becomes linked to nourishment itself, and how that connection quietly shapes the kneading motion that adult cats return to during moments of rest. For now, it's enough to remember this. Kneading does not come from thinking. It comes from the first experience of being supported. And that experience begins long before a cat ever opens its eyes. In the earliest moments of a kitten's life, nourishment and movement are not separate experiences. They happen together, quietly and repeatedly, without awareness or intention. A newborn kitten does not search for food in the way an older animal might. It does not explore. It does not plan. Instead, its body responds automatically to warmth, scent, and proximity. When a kitten settles close to its mother, a reflex begins to guide its movements. The front paws press forward, then release, then press again. This motion is not taught. It does not require imitation or correction. it appears on its own, as naturally as breathing. This is known as the nursing reflex. The purpose of this reflex is simple, but the experience surrounding it is rich. As the kitten presses its paws against soft tissue, gentle pressure helps stimulate milk flow. The alternating movement encourages nourishment to continue. The rhythm maintains consistency. But from the kitten's perspective, none of this is understood. There is no awareness of cause and effect, no recognition that the movement serves a function. The body moves, and nourishment follows. Because of this, the motion becomes inseparable from comfort. The kitten is warm, its body is supported, its needs are being met without effort. The paws press and release in a steady rhythm, and nothing interrupts the sequence. There is no urgency in the movement, no rushing, no strain. The reflex operates at a pace that matches the kitten's state, slow, steady, and calm. Over time, this pairing repeats again and again. Pressure, release for warmth, nourishment. The nervous system does not store this as a memory in words or images. It stores it as a pattern that says, this movement belongs here. This rhythm belongs with safety. The kitten does not stop kneading once it has eaten enough. Often, the movement continues briefly, even after nourishment slows. This is important. It shows that the motion is not strictly tied to hunger. It does not switch off the moment food is no longer needed. Instead, it lingers, gently fading as the kitten drifts deeper into rest. The movement becomes part of the transition from feeding to sleep. In this way, kneading is never only about nourishment. It is about the state that nourishment creates, a state where effort is unnecessary, where alertness softens, where the body can remain still without concern. As the kitten grows, the need for nursing fades. Solid food replaces milk. Independence increases. But the reflex does not disappear. The brain no longer requires the movement for feeding, yet the pattern remains embedded in the nervous system. It becomes dormant rather than erased. The reason for this is simple. The reflex was never stored as a task. It was stored as a state of being held, of being warm, of having needs met without demand. Because that state continues to exist throughout a cat's life, the movement that belongs to it can return. When an adult cat settles onto a soft surface, the conditions quietly resemble those early moments. The surface yields slightly under pressure. The body warms. The environment is still. The nervous system recognizes the state, even if the mind does not. And when that recognition occurs, the movement reappears. Not because the cat is hungry, not because it expects anything to happen, but because the body remembers what it feels like to be supported. This is why kneading can appear long after the original context is gone. The reflex no longer serves its original biological purpose, yet it continues to serve an emotional one. It signals that the body is safe enough to relax into familiarity. As we move forward, we'll begin to explore how this reflex, once rooted in nourishment, becomes something the body carries quietly through every stage of life. Something that emerges not when something is missing, but when everything feels settled enough to allow it. For now, it's enough to know this. Kneading begins not as a habit, but as a reflex tied to care. And long after the need for nursing fades, the comfort of that reflex remains. When we look closely at the kneading motion as it first appears in a kitten's life, one detail stands out more than any other. The pressure is gentle. A kitten does not push with force. It does not brace or strain. The paws press just enough to create contact and then release again. This balance matters. Too much pressure would disrupt feeding. Too little would not stimulate it. What emerges instead is a rhythm that stays within a narrow, comfortable range. Press, release, press, release. This rhythm supports milk flow, but it also does something quieter and more lasting. It creates consistency. For a newborn kitten, consistency is everything. The world is still forming. Sensory input is incomplete. Nothing is predictable yet. But during these early moments, one pattern repeats again and again. Warmth beneath the body, soft resistance under the paws, gentle pressure followed by relief. The kitten does not know what milk is. It does not understand nourishment or survival. What it experiences is continuity. The movement does not lead to interruption. It does not bring discomfort. It does not create uncertainty. Instead, the pattern repeats in the same way every time. Because of this, the nervous system begins to associate the kneading rhythm not just with feeding, but with stability. Stability is not excitement. It is not stimulation. It is the absence of change. The pressure of the paws stays within a predictable range. The warmth does not fluctuate. The environment does not demand attention. For the developing nervous system, this is deeply settling. The body learns that certain sensations can be trusted to remain gentle. This learning does not happen in words. It does not involve thought. It happens through repetition. Each time the kitten kneads, the same sequence unfolds. Nothing unexpected interrupts it. Nothing forces the body to adapt or respond. Over time, the movement becomes associated with a state where nothing needs to be monitored. This is how kneading becomes more than a reflex. It becomes a physical memory of steadiness. The alternating pressure of the paws mirrors the steadiness of the environment. One movement follows another. Nothing jumps ahead. Nothing pulls away. The kitten's body does not have to prepare for sudden change. This kind of steady input has a calming effect on the nervous system. It reduces unnecessary alertness. It allows muscles to soften. Even at this early stage, the body begins to recognize a difference between moments that require readiness and moments that do not. Kneading belongs to the second category. As feeding continues, warmth remains constant. The kitten's body temperature stays regulated by contact. The environment holds still. All of these signals reinforce one another. The paws press. The warmth remains. The body relaxes further. This loop repeats quietly, without interruption. And because it repeats so reliably, it becomes deeply familiar. When the kitten eventually stops feeding and drifts towards sleep, the transition feels smooth. There is no sharp edge between nourishment and rest. No moment where alertness must return. The movement simply slows, then fades. What remains is the state the movement supported. A state of being held. A state of consistency. A state where nothing unexpected happens. As the kitten grows, the original context changes. Milk is replaced with solid food. Independence increases. The environment becomes larger and more complex. But the nervous system does not discard patterns that worked. Instead, it preserves them. The kneading motion remains stored as a reliable way to recreate a familiar state. Not because it still affects milk flow, but because it still recreates consistency. When an adult cat presses its paws into a soft blanket, the pressure is similar. When it kneads a warm surface, the sensation echoes those early conditions. The environment no longer provides nourishment, but it provides something just as important: predictability. The surface yields slightly. The warmth remains steady. Nothing interrupts the rhythm. The body recognizes this immediately. There is no need to think, no need to evaluate. The pattern is allowed to unfold because the state feels safe enough to return to. This is why kneading does not appear during moments of uncertainty. If the environment is unstable, the pattern stays quiet. If the cat is alert or watching closely, the rhythm does not begin. Kneading requires consistency. It emerges only when the body senses that nothing is about to change. As we continue, we'll begin to look at how this early sense of consistency becomes something the body can access without awareness, long after kittenhood has passed. For now, it's enough to hold on to this idea. Kneading is not about pressing harder or doing more. It is about recreating a state where pressure, warmth, and rhythm remain steady enough for the body to let go. By the time a cat reaches adulthood, its world has changed completely. Rooms are larger, sounds are sharper, movements are more deliberate. The body is capable of speed, precision, and awareness that were not possible in early life. And yet, kneading remains. It appears quietly, unchanged in its basic form, even though everything around it has evolved. This persistence can seem puzzling if we think of memory only as something the mind does. When humans talk about memory, we often imagine recall. Images, stories, events that can be revisited and described. But much of memory does not work this way. Some memories do not belong to thought at all. They belong to the body. From the very beginning of life, the nervous system stores patterns that never pass through conscious awareness. These patterns are not remembered as experiences. They are remembered as movements, sensations, and states. This is what allows a cat to walk, jump, balance, and land without stopping to think. And it is also what allows kneading to return so easily, even years after its original context has disappeared. The body remembers first because it learns first. Long before a kitten can form a conscious memory, its nervous system is already recording information. Not information about objects or locations, but information about safety. Which sensations mean stability? Which rhythms feel familiar? Which states allow the body to soften? These early impressions are not stored as thoughts. They are stored as readiness. Readiness to relax. Readiness to settle. Readiness to release tension. Kneading is one of the patterns linked to that readiness. When an adult cat kneads, it is not recalling kittenhood in any mental sense. There is no image of nursing, no awareness of the past. Instead, the body recognizes a familiar internal state. The environment is quiet enough, the surface is soft enough, the temperature is steady. These conditions resemble something the nervous system has known before. And when that resemblance is felt, the body responds in the only way it knows how. It returns to the movement that once belonged to that state. This happens without permission from the mind. There is no pause to consider whether kneading makes sense in the present moment. No evaluation of whether it serves a purpose. The body does not ask questions. It recognizes a pattern and completes it. This is why kneading often begins without warning. One moment, a cat is simply resting. The next, the paws begin to move. There is no visible transition between thinking and doing, because thinking is not involved. The movement does not need to be initiated. It is allowed. The nervous system has already done the work of deciding that the moment is safe enough. Once that decision is made at a bodily level, kneading can surface. This also explains why kneading does not require reinforcement to continue across a lifetime. The behavior is not maintained because it leads to a reward. It is maintained because it belongs to a state the body returns to again and again. Rest, warmth, stillness. These states do not disappear with age. They remain part of life, even as circumstances change. Whenever the body re-enters one of these states, the patterns associated with it remain available. Kneading is one of them. It is not something the cat remembers doing. It is something the body remembers being. This distinction matters because it means kneading is not fragile. It does not depend on memory that can fade. It does not weaken with time. It does not need to be practiced to stay intact. It exists quietly, stored beneath awareness, waiting for the right conditions to bring it forward. And those conditions are not rare. They appear every time a cat rests deeply enough. This is why kneading often feels inevitable. Not because every cat must knead at every opportunity, but because when the body reaches a certain level of comfort, the movement is simply there. It belongs to that state the way breathing belongs to sleep. No instruction is required. No intention is necessary. The body remembers first. And when the body remembers, the mind does not need to follow. As we continue, we'll look more closely at the type of memory that holds these patterns, and why movements like kneading are especially resistant to fading or change. For now, it's enough to know this. Kneading persists not because a cat remembers its past. It persists because the body never forgot how to rest. When we talk about memory in animals, it can be helpful to separate it into two very different kinds. There is the kind of memory that notices and decides, and there is the kind of memory that simply knows how. Cats use both. They remember locations. They recognize routines. They notice changes in their environment. But beneath all of that, there is another layer of memory working quietly in the background. This is procedural memory. Procedural memory is responsible for skills that do not require thought. It stores movements rather than images. It holds patterns rather than stories. A cat does not think about how to walk across a narrow surface. It does not analyze how to jump onto a ledge. The body already knows how to do these things. Once learned, procedural memories tend to remain stable. They do not need to be revisited consciously. They do not fade easily. They do not require repetition to stay intact. This is because procedural memory is stored in parts of the nervous system that are designed for consistency, not flexibility. Unlike cognitive memory, which can be updated, corrected, or replaced, Procedural memory is meant to be reliable. It exists so that essential patterns can be trusted to function without oversight. Kneading lives almost entirely in this category. It is not remembered as an event. It is remembered as a movement that belongs to a particular state of being. This is why kneading does not disappear when a cat grows older. There is no reason for the nervous system to remove it. The movement is not harmful. It does not interfere with survival. It does not conflict with other behaviors. So it remains, quietly stored. Procedural memory also has another important characteristic. It tends to activate when the mind is least involved. When a cat is alert, scanning the environment, or preparing to move, higher levels of attention are required. In those moments, the body prioritizes readiness and control. Procedural patterns that belong to rest remain in the background. But when vigilance lowers, procedural memory becomes more accessible. The mind steps back, control softens, and the body is free to return to familiar movements. This is why kneading appears during calm states rather than active ones. It does not surface during play. It does not appear during hunting or exploration. It emerges when the body no longer needs to manage uncertainty. Procedural memory is especially well suited to these moments because it does not demand effort. The movement does not require planning. It does not require monitoring. It does not require adjustment. Once the pattern begins, it sustains itself. This self-sustaining quality is what allows kneading to feel effortless. The cat does not need to keep reminding itself what to do next. The sequence unfolds on its own. One paw presses, then the other. The rhythm holds steady without intervention. And because procedural memory is resistant to forgetting, this rhythm remains available throughout the cat's life. Even if a cat needs only occasionally, the pattern does not weaken. It does not need to be refreshed. The nervous system does not lose it through lack of use. It simply waits. This waiting does not involve awareness. The pattern is not stored in a place the cat can access deliberately. It cannot be summoned. It appears only when conditions align. Softness, warmth, safety. When those conditions are present, the procedural system recognizes them immediately. There is no evaluation of whether kneading is appropriate, no weighing of alternatives. The body simply moves. This also explains why kneading does not change much over time. While cats can adapt and learn new behaviors, procedural patterns like kneading remain remarkably consistent. The movement may become slower, the pressure may change slightly, but the basic rhythm remains the same. This stability is a feature, not a limitation. It means the movement can always be trusted to recreate a familiar state. When the world feels predictable enough, the body returns to what it knows, and what it knows is how to knead. As we move forward, we'll shift from memory to motion itself, and look more closely at how kneading unfolds without intention or choice. For now, it's enough to recognize this. Kneading does not persist because a cat remembers its past. It persists because procedural memory was designed to hold on to quiet skills that help the body settle. And once a skill belongs to that system, it rarely lets go. When a cat begins to knead, there is no visible moment of choice. The movement does not arrive after hesitation. It does not follow a pause or a glance or a shift in attention. It simply begins. This can be difficult to recognize at first, especially for human observers who are used to connecting movement with intention. In our own bodies, we often move because we decide to. We plan, we prepare, and then we act. Kneading does not follow this pattern. The cat does not decide to knead in the way it decides to jump, turn, or walk away. There is no internal command being issued, no outcome being pursued. Instead, the movement unfolds on its own, guided by patterns that exist beneath conscious awareness. This is what makes kneading feel so effortless. The paws do not rush to begin. They do not need instruction. One press follows another without interruption, as if the rhythm were already in motion and the body simply stepped into it. There is no sense of initiation because there is no initiator. The body responds to conditions, not to thoughts. When the surface beneath the paws yields slightly, when warmth is present, when the environment is quiet, the nervous system shifts into a state where certain movements are allowed. Kneading is one of them. This does not mean the cat is unaware. Awareness is still present, but it is diffuse. The cat is not focused on the movement itself. It is not monitoring the pressure or adjusting the rhythm. The body handles that automatically. This is why a kneading cat often appears distant or dreamy. The eyes may be half closed, the gaze unfixed, the head relaxed. Attention has loosened its grip. The movement does not require supervision, so the mind does not stay close. This is also why kneading can continue even if the cat's surroundings remain unchanged. There is no goal that needs to be reached before the movement can stop. It does not continue because it is unfinished. It continues because nothing interrupts it. As long as the body remains in a calm state, the pattern remains active. And when the state changes, the pattern fades. There is no decision to stop kneading either. The paws do not suddenly freeze. The rhythm does not end abruptly. It slows. The pressure softens. The pauses lengthen. And then, without a clear signal, the movement dissolves. The cat does not look down to check. It does not seem to notice the absence of motion. This lack of awareness is not a sign of disconnection. It is a sign of trust. The nervous system trusts the movement enough to allow it to happen without oversight. This kind of trust only appears in safe conditions. When an animal is alert or cautious, movements become deliberate. Muscles remain ready. Attention stays focused. Kneading belongs to a different category entirely. It belongs to moments when readiness is no longer required. This is why kneading does not appear during uncertainty. If a sound breaks the quiet, the movement often pauses. If the environment changes suddenly, the pause stops. Alertness returns immediately. The body switches from automatic comfort to active awareness. But when the quiet returns, the movement can return too, without effort, without planning. It is not summoned, it simply resumes. This ability to move without decision allows kneading to feel timeless. The rhythm does not feel new or old. It does not feel learned or practiced. It feels familiar in a way that does not depend on memory. Because of this, kneading can occur while the mind drifts. A cat can knead while slowly falling asleep, while purring, while breathing deepens. The movement does not compete with rest, it supports it. For the observer, this can create a similar effect. Watching a motion that has no goal and no decision behind it can soften attention. There is nothing to anticipate, nothing to evaluate. The mind can follow the rhythm for a moment, then let go. And that is why kneading feels so compatible with sleep. It does not ask for awareness. It does not demand interpretation. It exists quietly, doing what it has always done when the body feels safe enough to stop deciding. As we move forward, we'll begin shifting from memory to the present moment, exploring how this movement appears in adult life and why it so often arrives just before rest. For now, it's enough to rest with this idea. Kneading does not begin because a cat chooses to knead. It begins because the body has reached a place where choosing is no longer necessary. By the time kneading appears in adult life, it has already traveled a long way. It began as a reflex. It settled into memory without thought. It became a movement that requires no decision. And now, it waits. Kneading does not follow a cat through every moment of the day. It does not appear during exploration. It does not surface during alertness or play. It waits for a very specific condition: rest. This does not mean sleep has already arrived. It means the body has reached a point where vigilance is no longer necessary. Muscles soften, breathing slows, the head lowers. The environment no longer needs to be watched closely. This shift happens quietly, often without a clear boundary. A cat may lie down and remain still for some time before kneading begins. Nothing obvious changes, and then, almost imperceptibly, the paws start to move. This timing is not accidental. Kneading does not create safety. It confirms it. The body does not need in order to relax. It needs once relaxation has already begun. This distinction matters. Many behaviors are used to reach calm. They involve effort, repetition, or focus. Kneading belongs to a different category. It emerges only when the body has already decided that effort is no longer required. In that sense, kneading is a signal, not to the outside world, but to the nervous system itself. A signal that says, nothing urgent is happening. Nothing needs to be managed right now. This is why kneading so often appears just before sleep. The body has already begun transitioning away from alertness. Heart rate slows, muscle tone decreases, the mind becomes less engaged with the environment. Kneading fits perfectly into this space between wakefulness and sleep. It does not pull the body back toward activity. It does not introduce stimulation. Instead, it gently occupies the remaining energy, allowing it to settle evenly. The rhythm is slow enough not to excite. The pressure is gentle enough not to activate tension. The movement holds the body in place while awareness fades. This is also why kneading tends to stop on its own as sleep deepens. There is no need to end it deliberately. Once the body passes fully into rest, the movement becomes unnecessary. The rhythm has already done its quiet work. Kneading is not a requirement for sleep. Many cats fall asleep without it, but when it does appear, it often marks the final stages of letting go. Another important detail is what kneading does not appear alongside. It rarely happens when a cat is standing. It does not accompany pacing or scanning. It is almost always paired with stillness. The body has chosen a position. The surface beneath it feels stable. Nothing suggests that movement will be needed again soon. In these conditions, kneading becomes possible, not because it must happen, but because it can. This helps explain why kneading is so often associated with calm environments. Quiet rooms, dim light, familiar sounds. In louder or unpredictable spaces, the body remains ready. Even if the cat lies down, vigilance may remain high. Kneading stays dormant. The nervous system does not allow it to surface unless it is confident that rest will not be interrupted. This makes kneading a kind of confirmation. Not a message meant to be read, not a behavior meant to be interpreted. Simply a sign that the body feels safe enough to soften further. For people watching, this can feel reassuring. A kneading cat does not appear tense. It does not appear alert. It appears settled. And because the movement is slow and repetitive, it does not demand attention. It invites it briefly, then releases it. You can watch the rhythm for a few moments, then let your focus drift, just as the cat does. This is why kneading pairs so naturally with quiet moments at the end of the day. The environment slows, the cat slows, and the body reaches a state where nothing needs to be watched closely. Kneading does not announce this shift. It simply accompanies it. As we continue, we'll begin looking more closely at the physical conditions that invite this movement, the textures, warmth, and spaces that allow the body to recognize rest when it arrives. For now, it's enough to hold on to this. Kneading does not pull a cat into sleep. It appears when the body is already on its way there. When kneading appears in adult life, it almost always does so in response to something very simple. A surface. Not just any surface, but one that yields slightly under pressure. One that offers resistance without firmness. One that responds gently when the paws press down. Blankets, cushions, clothing, upholstery. These surfaces do not demand adjustment. They do not surprise the body. They meet the movement where it is. This matters more than it might seem. Kneading is not performed in the air. It requires feedback. The paws press and the surface responds. This response does not need to be dramatic. In fact, the more subtle it is, the better. A surface that is too hard offers no give. A surface that is too unstable shifts too much. The ideal surface responds just enough to confirm contact, then stays still. This kind of feedback mirrors the earliest conditions under which kneading first appeared. Softness without collapse. Resistance without rejection. The nervous system recognizes this immediately. It does not analyze the material. It does not identify the surface. It simply receives a familiar pattern of sensation. The paws press. The surface yields slightly. The pressure returns. This loop is enough to allow the movement to continue. Soft textures do not create kneading. They permit it. They tell the body that the environment will not push back in an unexpected way. This predictability allows the rhythm to remain steady. When a cat kneads on a familiar blanket or cushion, it is not trying to change the surface. It is not shaping it. It is not testing it. The surface simply confirms that the conditions are right. This is why cats often choose the same textures repeatedly. A specific blanket, a particular pillow, a familiar piece of clothing. Over time, these surfaces become associated with rest, not because the cat remembers choosing them, but because the body recognizes the sensations they provide. The association is quiet and nonverbal. When the paws touch a surface that feels right, the body responds before the mind has time to notice. This also explains why kneading is rarely directed toward hard floors or rigid surfaces. Those surfaces do not provide the feedback the pattern expects. The pressure does not return in a familiar way. The loop breaks. Without the right sensory response, the movement does not feel complete, so it does not continue. Soft textures allow kneading to remain effortless. The paws do not need to adjust their pressure. The rhythm does not need correction. The movement can unfold without interruption. This is especially important during rest. When the body is already slowing down, it seeks sensations that will not pull it back into alertness. Soft textures meet this need perfectly. They absorb pressure without resistance. They remain stable without rigidity. The body can remain still while the movement continues. This is also why kneading often becomes more pronounced on surfaces that carry familiar scent. Clothing, bedding, and favorite resting spots hold the cat's own scent, as well as the scent of trusted environments. This adds another layer of familiarity. The surface does not just feel right, it belongs. The nervous system receives multiple signals at once: softness, warmth, familiar scent. Together, these signals reinforce the sense that nothing needs to change. The body can stay where it is. Kneading unfolds naturally in this context. The paws press without force. The rhythm stays even. The movement does not escalate. It simply continues until the body no longer needs it. As we move forward, we'll look more closely at one of the most powerful signals layered into these moments: warmth, and how it quietly deepens the sense of safety that allows kneading to appear. For now, it's enough to recognize this. Kneading does not happen because a surface is special. It happens because the surface feels familiar enough to let the body rest exactly where it is. Alongside softness, there is another condition that almost always accompanies kneading: warmth. Not intense heat, and not sudden temperature changes. Just a steady, gentle warmth that does not demand attention. Warmth works quietly in the background of a cat's nervous system. It does not announce itself. It does not ask for response. It simply signals that the body can afford to relax. From the earliest days of life, warmth and safety are closely linked. A newborn kitten cannot regulate its own body temperature. It relies entirely on external warmth to remain stable. This dependence creates a powerful association. Warmth is not just comfortable, it is necessary. Because of this, the nervous system learns very early to treat warmth as a sign that conditions are supportive. When warmth is present and consistent, the body does not need to generate extra tension. Muscles can soften. Energy can be conserved. This learning never disappears. Even in adulthood, when a cat can regulate its temperature independently, warmth still carries the same quiet meaning. It tells the body that it does not need to prepare for challenge. This is why kneading so often appears in warm environments. Sunlit patches on the floor, beds that hold heat, blankets that retain warmth. These conditions do not trigger kneading on their own, but they remove barriers that would otherwise keep the movement dormant. When the body is warm, it does not need to remain alert to cold or discomfort. There is no need to adjust position constantly. The body can remain still. This stillness creates space for automatic patterns to surface. Kneading fits naturally into this space. The paws press into a surface that is not cold. The warmth does not pull attention outward. Nothing interrupts the rhythm. Warmth also slows physiological processes in subtle ways. Breathing becomes deeper. Heart rate eases. Muscle tone lowers. These changes do not require conscious control. They happen automatically when the environment supports rest. Kneading appears alongside these shifts, not as a cause, but as a companion. It emerges when the body is already transitioning toward a lower level of activation. This is why kneading is rarely seen in cold or uncomfortable conditions. Even if a surface is soft, if it is cold, the body remains slightly guarded. Muscles hold tension. The nervous system stays alert. Kneading stays quiet. The movement requires a sense that the body can remain exactly where it is without needing to adjust. Warmth provides that assurance. It creates a stable background against which repetition can unfold. There is also something deeply familiar about warmth itself. For a cat, warmth is rarely isolated. It is usually paired with rest. Cats seek warm places when they want to sleep. They stretch into warmth rather than away from it. Over time, warmth becomes part of the body's map of safe states. When warmth is felt, the nervous system recognizes a familiar pattern. Nothing needs to be done. This recognition does not involve thought. The body does not label the sensation. It simply responds. And one of the responses it allows is kneading. The rhythm unfolds more easily when the body does not need to manage temperature. The paws move slowly. The pressure remains gentle. There is no urgency. This is why kneading often becomes more relaxed in warm environments. The movement does not tighten or speed up. It stays even. Warmth encourages continuity. It allows the body to remain in the same state long enough for the movement to complete itself. And when sleep arrives, warmth continues to support it. The body does not have to shift or reposition. It can remain still. The kneading fades naturally, without interruption. As we move forward, we'll look at the spaces where kneading appears most often, places chosen by the cat itself, and how safety, rather than attachment, shapes where this movement is allowed to surface. For now, it's enough to remember this. Warmth does not demand kneading. It simply creates the conditions where the body no longer needs to hold itself ready. And in that quiet absence of readiness, familiar rhythms are free to return. When kneading appears in adult life, it is almost never random. The movement does not surface in unfamiliar places. It does not emerge where the body must remain alert or prepared. Instead, kneading happens in spaces the cat has already chosen. A favorite chair, a familiar bed, a quiet corner, a spot that has been returned to many times before. These spaces do not need to be permanent. They do not need to be large or elaborate. What matters is that they feel predictable. Chosen spaces share a few subtle qualities. They are free from sudden disturbance. They allow the body to rest without interruption. They do not require constant monitoring. When a cat selects a place to rest, it is making a quiet assessment, not with thought or planning, but through sensation. Is the space still? Is it familiar? Does it feel safe enough to stop watching? Only when the answer to these questions is yes, does the body fully settle, and only then does kneading become possible. This is why kneading often appears in proximity to humans, but not always. A cat may knead beside a person, on their clothing, or on a shared surface. But the kneading is not directed at the person. It is directed at the state the space provides. If the presence of another being feels calm and predictable, the body can relax into it. If that presence feels uncertain or stimulating, kneading stays quiet. Proximity is optional. The cat does not need closeness to knead. It needs safety. This distinction matters. Kneading is often interpreted as a sign of affection or attachment. And while it can occur in moments of closeness, the movement itself does not require relationship. It requires permission. Permission from the nervous system to soften fully. This permission can be granted in solitude just as easily as in company. A cat kneading alone in a quiet room is not lacking connection. It is responding to an environment that feels stable. The chosen space holds the conditions the body recognizes: familiar scent, consistent layout, lack of surprise. Over time, these spaces become part of the cat's internal map of rest. The body learns where it can let go, and when the body lets go, kneading becomes available. This is why kneading often does not appear in new environments, even if they are comfortable. A new space may be soft and warm, but it has not yet earned trust. The body remains slightly alert. Scanning continues. Kneading remains dormant. Trust takes time. Not because the cat is suspicious, but because the nervous system needs consistency. Repeated experiences of safety allow the body to stop preparing for change. Only then does the movement surface. This also explains why kneading can appear in very specific locations and nowhere else. A single blanket, a particular cushion, one corner of a bed. The cat's body recognizes these places not as objects, but as states. States where nothing unexpected happens. Once the body enters that state, the movement that belongs to it can unfold. And when kneading happens near others, it does not carry expectation. The cat is not asking for response. It is not seeking reassurance. It is simply resting in a space that feels calm enough to allow automatic rhythms to return. This is why kneading often continues even if no one notices. The movement does not depend on acknowledgement. It exists independently of attention. As we move forward, we'll begin to explore how kneading works alongside other calming behaviors, and how rhythm itself helps the body remain settled as it transitions deeper into rest. For now, it's enough to remember this. Kneading appears where the body feels safe enough to stop watching. Not because of who is nearby, but because the space, in that moment, asks for nothing at all. When kneading appears, it is often accompanied by another familiar sound, a low, steady vibration, soft enough to feel more than hear, a sound that seems to come from deep within the body. Purring. These two behaviors, kneading and purring, are frequently seen together, but they do not come from the same place. They begin differently. They develop along separate paths. And yet, in moments of rest, they arrive at the same time. This pairing is not accidental. Purring is one of the earliest sounds a cat produces. It appears in kittens within days of birth, often while nursing and resting. Like kneading, Purring does not require learning. It emerges automatically when certain internal states are reached. But while kneading is a movement, purring is a vibration. One works through pressure and rhythm in the paws. The other works through sound and resonance in the body. Different systems, shared timing. Both behaviors appear most reliably when the body is calm enough to allow them. They do not announce excitement. They do not accompany alertness or readiness. Instead, they surface when the nervous system has already shifted away from vigilance. This is why kneading and purring often reinforce one another. The gentle pressure of kneading supports stillness in the body. The vibration of purring supports calm within it. Together, they create a layered experience of regulation. The body feels grounded through touch. The nervous system feels soothed through vibration. Neither behavior demands attention. The cat does not focus on its paws or its breath. The movements and sounds happen beneath awareness. This allows the mind to drift without losing stability. When kneading and purring occur together, they often settle into a shared rhythm. The paws press and release. The purr hums steadily. Neither rushes, neither escalates. They exist in parallel, each reinforcing the state that allows the other to continue. This mutual reinforcement is subtle. Kneading does not cause purring. Purring does not cause kneading. Both arise because the body has reached a place where regulation can occur without effort. This is important. These behaviors are not tools the cat uses to calm itself down actively. They are signs that calming has already begun. Once present, they help maintain that state. The repetition of kneading keeps the body anchored. The vibration of purring keeps internal systems steady. Together, they reduce the likelihood of sudden shifts back into alertness. This pairing can be especially noticeable during transitions. As a cat settles into a resting place, purring may begin first. The sound appears quietly, almost imperceptibly. Then, as the body sinks further into comfort, kneading follows. Or sometimes the order is reversed. The sequence does not matter. What matters is the convergence. Both behaviors occupy the space between wakefulness and sleep. They do not pull the cat fully into sleep right away. They hold the body gently in that middle ground, a place where awareness softens but does not disappear. This is why kneading and purring often fade together. As sleep deepens, the need for regulation decreases. The vibration may quiet, the movement may slow. Neither stops abruptly. They dissolve gradually, as the body transitions into a state where no regulation is needed at all. For an observer, this pairing can feel deeply calming. Watching the paws move in rhythm while hearing the low hum of a purr creates a sense of synchrony. There is nothing to interpret, nothing to respond to, just a body allowed to settle fully into rest. As we continue, we'll explore why repetition itself plays such a powerful role in this process, and how rhythmic movement helps the nervous system remain steady without effort. For now, it's enough to sit with this idea. Kneading and purring do not exist to communicate. They exist to support a body that has already found its way toward calm. And when they appear together, they quietly hold that calm in place. There is something deeply settling about repetition. Not repetition that demands attention or effort, but repetition that unfolds gently, without change or expectation. Kneading belongs to this quieter kind of repetition. The movement does not progress. It does not evolve. It does not aim toward an ending. It repeats because repetition itself is the point. For the nervous system, repetition is stabilizing. When a motion stays predictable, the body does not need to prepare for surprise. Muscles can remain soft. Breathing can stay even. This is why rhythmic behaviors appear so often in moments of rest, across many species. They provide continuity. The paws press, they release, and then they do it again. Nothing changes from one cycle to the next. This consistency tells the nervous system that nothing new needs to be managed. Kneading does not stimulate the body, it occupies it. The movement gives the remaining energy somewhere to settle, rather than allowing it to turn into tension. This is what makes kneading a form of self-soothing. Not because the cat is distressed, but because the body is transitioning towards stillness and needs a gentle way to stabilize that shift. Self-soothing does not always mean calming down from stress. Sometimes it means maintaining calm once it has already been reached. Repetition excels at this. Each press of the paw reinforces the same sensation. Each release confirms that nothing has changed. The body does not need to update its internal map. The rhythm remains steady enough that awareness can loosen its grip. This is why kneading rarely feels restless. The movement does not fidget. It does not surge. It stays contained within a narrow range. Contained movement is comforting because it does not invite escalation. There is no increase in speed, no variation in pressure that demands correction. The pattern holds itself. Repetition also reduces arousal by occupying the sensory system with predictable input. The paws receive the same feedback over and over. The nervous system recognizes the pattern. Because the input is familiar, it does not trigger alertness. Instead, it gently reinforces the sense that the body can remain where it is. This is similar to other soothing rhythms in nature. The sound of steady rain, the motion of gentle rocking, the regular rise and fall of breathing. These rhythms do not demand focus. They allow the mind to drift. Kneading offers this same quality, but through movement rather than sound. The cat does not watch its paws. It does not monitor the repetition. The body takes over, leaving awareness free to soften. This is why kneading often appears alongside half-closed eyes. The movement supports the body while the mind begins to disengage. Importantly, the repetition does not need to continue indefinitely. There is no requirement to complete a certain number of movements. Kneading does not end because it has finished something. It ends because it no longer needs to continue. As the body settles further, the need for stabilization decreases. The rhythm begins to slow. The pauses between movements lengthen. The pressure softens. Eventually, the repetition fades. Not abruptly, not forcefully. It dissolves as naturally as it appeared. This unforced ending is part of what makes kneading so effective. If the movement had to stop deliberately, it would require attention. But because it ends on its own, it does not pull the body back into awareness. Sleep can follow without interruption. This gentle fading is key. Kneading does not create a sharp boundary between motion and stillness. It bridges them. Repetition carries the body from one state into the next without requiring a decision. This is why kneading feels so compatible with rest. It does not hurry the body towards sleep. It does not hold it back. It simply stays present for as long as it is helpful. As we continue, we'll look at how this repetition gradually softens, how the rhythm naturally slows, and how sleep arrives without needing to be invited. For now, it's enough to remember this. Repetition does not mean restlessness. In the right context, repetition is how the body reassures itself that nothing needs to change. And when that reassurance has done its work, the movement is free to fade. As kneading continues, something subtle begins to change. There is no clear moment when this shift starts, no signal that announces it. The rhythm simply begins to soften. The presses become less deliberate. The pauses between movements stretch slightly longer. The pressure eases without effort. This is not the body stopping kneading. It is the body no longer needing it as much. Kneading does not end because it is finished. It ends because the body has reached a place where even gentle rhythm is no longer required. As rest deepens, the nervous system continues to downshift. Breathing becomes slower and more regular. Muscle tone decreases further. Awareness narrows, then loosens. In this state, movement becomes optional. The body is no longer managing a transition. It has arrived. This is why kneading rarely stops abruptly. There is no command to halt, no tightening or sudden stillness. The rhythm simply thins out. One paw presses, then there is a pause, then perhaps another press, and then nothing. The paws remain still, not because they have been instructed to stop, but because there is no longer a reason to continue. This gradual slowing is essential. If kneading were to stop suddenly, it would signal a shift back toward alertness. The body would notice the change. But because the movement fades gently, awareness does not need to return. Sleep can take its place quietly. This is one of the reasons kneading pairs so naturally with drowsiness. The movement does not compete with sleep. It escorts the body toward it. Each softening press lowers the remaining tension just enough to allow the next stage of rest to appear. And once sleep arrives, kneading does not linger. There is no struggle to maintain it, no resistance to letting it go. The body does not miss the movement, because the movement was never the goal. It was simply part of the descent. This is why kneading does not feel incomplete when it ends. There is no sense that something was interrupted. The transition feels continuous. Awareness drifts, the world recedes, and the body settles fully into stillness. For observers, this moment can be easy to miss. A cat that was kneading moments ago now appears completely at rest. The paws are still. The body is relaxed. Breathing is slow. Nothing announces the shift. But that quietness is the point. The nervous system does not need to mark the boundary between kneading and sleep. It flows from one into the other. This is how comfort behaviors work at their best. They do not demand attention. They do not insist on completion. They support the body just long enough and then step aside. Kneading does not pull the body into sleep forcefully. It walks beside it, then fades when it is no longer needed. This is why kneading feels so gentle to watch. There is no climax, no conclusion, just a gradual quieting of motion. the rhythm slows, the pauses widen, and eventually movement disappears into rest. This process does not require intention or awareness. The body knows how to arrive at sleep. Kneading simply smooths the path. As we move forward, we'll begin to look at why this process looks different from one cat to another, and why variation in kneading is not something that needs to be corrected or explained away. For now, it's enough to rest with this image. A body that no longer needs to move. A rhythm that has done its quiet work. And sleep arriving naturally, without invitation. Kneading does not end sleep. It gently hands the body over to it. If you watch enough cats, one thing becomes clear very quickly. Not all cats knead in the same way. Some knead often and for long stretches. Others do it briefly or rarely. Some press with visible enthusiasm. Others barely move their paws at all. These differences can be easy to notice. And for humans, difference often invites comparison. But kneading is not a behavior with a correct form. There is no standard rhythm to meet. No ideal frequency. No amount that indicates health or happiness more than another. Kneading is shaped by temperament. Just as cats differ in how they play, rest, or seek comfort, they also differ in how they express calm. Some cats externalize comfort through movement. Others internalize it. A cat that kneads often is not necessarily more relaxed than one that rarely does. It may simply be more expressive with its body. Temperament influences how strongly internal states are translated into visible behavior. Some cats are physically demonstrative. They stretch, roll, and shift when they relax. Others become very still. Both responses reflect the same underlying state. Comfort does not always look the same. For some cats, kneading is a clear part of their resting routine. For others, it may appear only in very specific circumstances. Neither pattern is incomplete. It is also important to remember that kneading is not required for rest. Many cats fall asleep without kneading at all. This does not mean the body is missing something. It simply means that the nervous system reached stillness through a different path. Temperament shapes which paths feel most natural. Some bodies prefer motion before stillness. Others prefer immediate quiet. This difference can be influenced by many subtle factors. Sensitivity to touch, preference for pressure, response to sensory input. A cat that enjoys physical sensation may knead more visibly. A cat that is easily overstimulated may keep movement minimal. Neither response is better. They are simply different ways of arriving at the same place. It is also worth noting that kneading intensity does not correlate with trust in a straightforward way. A cat that kneads vigorously is not necessarily more attached than one that does not. Attachment and comfort can be expressed in many forms. Stillness can be just as meaningful as movement. Some cats express safety by remaining motionless. Others express it by allowing familiar rhythms to surface. Both are signs of ease. This is why kneading should not be used as a measure. It is not a scorecard for well-being. It is not a behavior that needs to be encouraged or reduced. It is simply one expression of a settled nervous system. When variation appears, it reflects individuality rather than deficiency. Each cat's history, sensory preferences, and temperament shape how kneading fits into their life. Some cats knead more on certain surfaces than others. Some prefer warmth. Some only knead when the environment is perfectly quiet. These preferences are not problems to solve. They are reflections of what allows that particular body to feel safe enough to soften. For observers, it can be helpful to let go of expectations, to notice kneading when it appears without waiting for it, to allow it to be present without interpretation. If a cat kneads, it is not performing. If it does not, it is not withholding. The behavior is not a message to decode. It is simply a movement that appears when conditions align in a way that suits that individual nervous system. As we continue, we'll look more closely at how early life experiences can influence the intensity of kneading, not as something broken or lacking, but as an understandable variation in how comfort is carried forward. For now, it's enough to remember this. There is no correct amount of kneading. There is only what feels natural for that body in that moment. And every version of comfort deserves the same quiet acceptance. While temperament shapes how kneading is expressed, early life experience can shape how strongly the movement stays present. This does not mean something went wrong. It does not mean something is missing. It simply means that patterns formed under different conditions can settle with different intensity. In the earliest weeks of life, a kitten's nervous system is especially receptive, not because it is fragile, but because it is forming its foundation. During this time, repeated experiences leave deep impressions. The body learns which states are reliable, which sensations signal safety, which rhythms belong to rest. When kittens remain with their mother for a longer period, these patterns develop within a stable, consistent environment. Nourishment arrives regularly. Warmth is constant. Contact is predictable. The kneading reflex is present, but it is layered within a broader field of support. For kittens who experience separation earlier, the conditions can be different. This separation does not need to be abrupt or traumatic to matter. Even gentle changes in timing can influence how strongly certain patterns are reinforced. When access to consistent warmth or contact becomes less predictable, the body adapts. It does not panic. It does not break. It reinforces what works. If kneading has already been associated with comfort, stability, and regulation, the nervous system may rely on it more strongly, not as a response to distress, but as a familiar way of recreating a settled state. This reinforcement does not indicate harm. It indicates adaptability. The body finds ways to preserve comfort when circumstances change. Kneading becomes one of the tools that remains available. This is why some cats knead more frequently or more intensely than others. The movement itself has not changed. The nervous system has simply learned that it is especially effective. This does not mean the cat is anxious. It does not mean the cat is compensating for something lost. It means the body has identified a reliable pathway to rest and continues to use it. This distinction is important. Early separation is often discussed in terms of deficits. But in this context, what we see is not deficiency, but continuity. The cat is not clinging to the past. It is carrying forward what worked. Kneading remains because it belongs to a state that the body values. And when that state is reached, the movement appears. Over time, this reinforced pattern can become a stable part of adult behavior. The cat kneads not because it needs reassurance, but because kneading reliably accompanies calm. It has become a familiar doorway into rest. This is why kneading can persist even in environments where everything is supportive. The movement does not fade simply because conditions are good. Once a pattern is reinforced, it does not need to be undone. It exists quietly alongside other ways of settling. Some cats may knead in more situations. Some may knead for longer durations. Some may press with more noticeable pressure. None of this requires correction. It reflects how strongly the early pattern became associated with comfort. It is also worth noting that reinforcement can soften over time. As adult life provides consistent safety, the body does not need to rely as heavily on any single pattern. For some cats, kneading gradually becomes less frequent. For others, it remains a steady companion. Both outcomes are normal. The nervous system does not aim to erase early patterns. It aims to remain flexible. Kneading does not trap a cat in the past. It coexists with growth. The body can hold on to early comfort without being defined by it. As we move forward, we'll explore how new associations layer onto this instinct, allowing kneading to appear in response to specific objects, routines, and moments in adult life. For now, it's enough to rest with this idea. Early reinforcement does not mean something is missing. It means the body learned how to keep comfort close, and it continues to do so quietly in its own way. As a cat moves through life, the kneading motion does not remain frozen in its earliest form. The foundation stays the same. The rhythm remains familiar. The purpose does not change, but new layers are added. These layers form quietly, without intention or awareness. They are associations, not learned through instruction, not chosen deliberately. They emerge through repetition and proximity. When kneading appears again and again in certain contexts, the nervous system begins to link the movement with those contexts. A specific blanket, a particular chair, a familiar time of day. These associations do not replace the original instinct. They sit on top of it. The core pattern remains intact, but the body learns additional signals that tell it when the pattern is welcome. This is why kneading can become tied to routines. A cat may knead most often at bedtime, or during afternoon naps, or when settling into a specific spot. The body learns the rhythm of the day, not as a schedule, but as a flow. Certain moments consistently lead into rest. Kneading becomes part of that transition. Objects can also become part of this layering. A favorite blanket may carry familiar scent and texture. A cushion may hold warmth in a specific way. Over time, these objects become associated with the state that kneading belongs to. The body recognizes them not as separate items, but as cues. When the paws touch something that feels familiar, the movement can return more easily. This does not mean the cat is attached to the object itself. It means the object reliably recreates the conditions the body expects. Softness, warmth, stability. The association is practical, not emotional. The nervous system does not assign meaning. It simply recognizes patterns. These associations can be surprisingly specific. A cat may need only one side of a blanket, or only one corner of a bed. or only when the room is arranged a certain way. This specificity does not indicate rigidity. It indicates precision. The body has learned exactly which conditions allow it to relax most fully, and it returns to them without thought. Importantly, these associations do not limit the cat. They do not trap kneading in narrow circumstances. They expand its reach. The original instinct becomes more flexible, not less. Kneading can now appear in multiple contexts, each one linked to rest. If a familiar object is removed, the movement does not disappear forever. The body adapts. New associations can form. A new blanket, a different surface, a new routine. The core pattern remains ready. This adaptability shows how kneading balances stability with flexibility. The movement is rooted deeply enough to persist, but open enough to attach to new contexts. This is why kneading can follow a cat through changes in environment. New homes, different furniture, new routines. The body carries the pattern and waits for conditions that resemble rest. When those conditions appear, kneading surfaces again. Associations simply make it easier. They reduce the amount of confirmation the nervous system needs. Familiar cues say, "This is a safe moment. You can soften here." And when those cues are present, the movement is allowed. These associations do not need to be strong to matter. They do not need to be exclusive. They are gentle links, not rules. The cat does not seek them out deliberately. It simply responds when they are encountered. For observers, this can make kneading feel personal. A cat needs a specific blanket or chooses a particular spot. But the meaning is internal, not symbolic. The behavior is not a message. It is a response to conditions that have proven reliable. As we approach the final phase of this exploration, we'll begin to let go of explanation and return to the simple presence of the movement itself, allowing kneading to dissolve back into rest without needing to be understood further. For now, it's enough to hold on to this. Kneading does not change because the instinct weakens. It changes because the body learns new ways to recognize when it is safe to rest. The foundation remains. Only the invitations evolve. By the time kneading appears in adult life, it no longer belongs to any single moment. It is not tied to one place. It is not dependent on one surface. It is not limited to a specific stage of development. It has traveled. From the earliest days of a kitten's life, comfort was never something that needed to be understood. It was something that was felt. Warmth, pressure, consistency. Those sensations did not remain behind when the kitten grew. They moved forward, carried quietly by the body. This is how early comfort persists. Not as memory that needs to be recalled, not as an experience that must be revisited, but as a state that remains available. The nervous system does not forget how to rest. It does not need reminders. It does not need reinforcement. Once a pattern is associated with safety, it becomes part of the body's baseline understanding of the world. Kneading is one expression of that understanding. It does not appear because the cat is reaching backward. It appears because the body recognizes that the present moment feels close enough to those early conditions. The past does not intrude. It simply echoes. This is why kneading does not require maintenance. The cat does not need to practice it. It does not need to repeat it regularly to keep it intact. The movement exists beneath awareness, unchanged by time. Even if a cat does not knead for long periods, the pattern does not weaken. It remains stored, waiting for the right conditions. This quiet availability is what allows comfort to feel continuous rather than fragile. The body does not worry about losing access to rest. It trusts that familiar states can be reached again. And when they are, the movements that belong to them return naturally. This continuity is subtle. There is no sense of nostalgia, no emotional attachment to the past. The body does not compare present comfort to earlier comfort. It simply recognizes a familiar configuration of sensation. Softness, warmth, stillness. When these come together, kneading becomes possible. Not because the past has resurfaced, but because the present is supportive. This perspective matters. It shifts kneading away from the idea of longing or regression. The movement is not a sign that something is missing. It is a sign that something remains intact. The capacity for comfort has not been lost. It has been carried forward. This is why kneading can appear even in new environments, even when everything else has changed. The body does not rely on exact replicas of the past. It relies on patterns. And patterns are flexible. They adapt to new contexts without losing their essence. Kneading does not need the same blanket. It does not need the same room. It needs conditions that resemble rest. When those conditions appear, the movement returns. This quiet continuity allows the body to move through life without needing to hold on to specific objects or routines. Comfort is not stored externally. It is internal. The movement is simply one way the body recognizes that comfort is present. As we move toward the close of this exploration, we can begin to release the need to explain kneading any further. The movement does not ask to be understood. It asks only to be allowed. And when it is allowed, it unfolds as it always has, quietly, gently, without demand. In the next section, we'll let go of interpretation altogether, allowing kneading to exist without meaning or expectation. For now, it's enough to remember this. Early comfort does not disappear. It travels forward, woven into the body's understanding of rest. Nothing needs to be preserved. Nothing needs to be held onto. The capacity for comfort is already there. As kneading continues, or as it fades, it can be tempting to keep watching it, waiting for it to mean something, to wonder what it signifies, to ask whether it should be responded to decide what role it plays in the moment. But kneading does not require interpretation. It does not arrive with a message. It does not point toward an outcome. It does not ask for acknowledgement. It is emotion that exists entirely on its own terms. The body does not need in order to communicate. It needs because the conditions allow it. This distinction is important because it frees the movement from expectation. Nothing needs to happen next. The cat does not need reassurance. It does not need encouragement. It does not need the movement to be noticed. Kneading does not wait for a response. If someone observes it, it continues. If no one does, it continues just the same. And if the movement stops, nothing has been interrupted. This independence is part of what makes kneading so gentle. There is no pressure placed on the environment. No demand placed on anyone nearby. The movement belongs entirely to the body experiencing it. Because of this, observation can soften. You do not need to follow each press of the paws. You do not need to track the rhythm or anticipate the next movement. You can notice it briefly, then let it drift into the background, just as the cat does. This is often how kneading is experienced from the inside. The cat is not focused on its paws. It is not watching the movement happen. The body moves, and awareness floats somewhere nearby. This separation allows kneading to coexist with drowsiness. The mind does not need to stay engaged. It can fade without disrupting the rhythm. This is why kneading can feel so easy to sit with. There is nothing to do with it. You do not need to encourage it to continue. You do not need to help it end. The movement knows when it has done enough. It does not need supervision, and when it fades without announcement. The paws may rest where they are. The body remains settled. Nothing changes. This lack of requirement extends to meaning as well. Kneading does not need to represent comfort, affection, or trust in a symbolic sense. Those interpretations are optional. The movement does not rely on them. It functions the same way whether or not anyone assigns meaning to it. This is one of the reasons kneading can be so calming to observe. It does not invite analysis. It does not create a story that needs resolution. It simply exists for as long as it exists, and then it does not. This kind of motion allows the mind to let go. There is no arc to follow, no question to answer. The repetition is complete in itself. This is also why kneading does not create anticipation. You do not wait for it to finish. You do not wonder what comes after. There is no after. There is only the continuation of rest. When the movement is present, rest is present. When the movement fades, rest remains. Nothing is lost. Nothing needs replacing. The body does not rely on kneading to stay calm. It relies on the state that allowed kneading to appear in the first place. That state persists even when the movement is gone. As we reach the final moments of this exploration, we no longer need to understand kneading at all. The explanation has already done its quiet work. What remains is simply rest. In the next and final section, we will not conclude or summarize. We will allow the movement, whether present or absent, to dissolve completely into stillness. For now, it's enough to let this be true. Kneading asks for nothing. It requires no response, and it leaves behind the same calm it arrived within. At this point, there is nothing left to resolve. The movement may still be there. The pause may still be resting, or everything may already be still. Either way, nothing is missing. Kneading does not need a conclusion. It does not need to be finished properly. It does not need to be understood fully before it can fade. It was never meant to arrive at an ending. It exists comfortably without one. If the motion continues, it can continue quietly. If it stops without consequence. Rest does not depend on the movement. The body does not wait for kneading to end before it can sleep. Sleep does not wait for an explanation. They meet naturally, without negotiation. This is how comfort behaves when it is allowed to remain simple. There is no final signal, no closing gesture. The rhythm slows when it needs to. Stillness arrives when it is ready. Nothing needs to be held in place. Nothing needs to be remembered. The body already knows how to rest. The paws, whether moving or still, no longer matter. The surface beneath them remains. The warmth remains. The quiet remains. And within that quiet, awareness can drift without effort. You do not need to listen closely anymore. You do not need to follow the words. They can fade into the background, just like the movement did. There is no lesson here to take with you. No idea you need to carry forward. Only the same calm that was present all along. Kneading did not create it, and its absence does not remove it. The body has already settled. Breathing is slow. Muscles are soft. Attention has loosened. Nothing is asking for your focus now. Nothing is asking you to stay awake. If sleep arrives, it arrives naturally. If wakefulness lingers, it can linger quietly. There is no urgency in either direction. This moment does not need to become anything else. The motion may return another time, or it may not. Either way, comfort remains available, and rest does not require explanation. It never did. So now, there is nothing left to do, nothing left to understand, just the quiet continuation of rest unfolding on its own.